The movie kicks off with a bang as Carter Ford dominates a bar fight against his rival. Amidst the chaos, a determined woman named Frankie is on the hunt for Carter, seeking him out with hopeful anticipation. Meanwhile, outside the bar, a mysterious figure lurks in his car, his intentions unclear. As Carter continues his winning streak in the ring, the announcer boldly calls for challengers. Suddenly, the mysterious man from outside steps up, revealing himself as Elwood Dalton, a former UFC fighter. Carter, recognizing Dalton, panics and refuses to face him, citing him as that guy. Dalton ends up walking away with the prize money, leaving Frankie bewildered. Outside the bar, Dalton is confronted by a man demanding money, resulting in a tense altercation that ends with Dalton being stabbed. Despite the threat, Dalton's calm demeanor unnerves his attacker, who flees. Frankie, intrigued by Dalton's tactics, joins him and learns about his past in the fighting world. Frankie confides in Dalton about the troubles plaguing her Roadhouse, offering him a hefty sum to help. Dalton suggests involving Carter instead, but Frankie insists on Dalton's assistance. Before parting ways, Frankie ensures Dalton has her contact information, hoping he'll reconsider his decision to leave her hanging. Later, Dalton finds himself drifting off in his car at a gas station, only to be woken up by a no-nonsense policewoman urging him to move along. Feeling lost and hopeless, Dalton momentarily considers ending it all by parking his car on train tracks. But just before the train barrels through, he has a change of heart and tries to move his car. Unfortunately, the train still clips the back of his car, shaking him to his core and prompting a rethink of Frankie's job offer. In the next scene, Dalton arrives at the Florida Keys and is greeted by Charlie, a spirited young girl who co-owns Glass Keys bookstore. Curious about local lore, Charlie introduces Dalton to the legend of Fred the Tree, sparking an unexpected connection. Armed with newfound knowledge, Dalton sets out to address the mess at a bar, only to be rescued by Stephen, Charlie's father. With the address of the Roadhouse in hand, Dalton heads off, accompanied by a gift from Stephen and Charlie, a book about Fred the Tree. Upon arriving at Frankie's bar, aptly named the Roadhouse, Dalton is struck by its serene atmosphere. He bonds with Laura, the bartender, over coffee and is amused by Billy's recognition of him. As the evening wears on, chaos erupts in the bar, with fights breaking out left and right. Dalton observes with a smile as Billy tries to restore order until a group of rowdy bikers, led by Dell, storms in. Unable to stand by any longer, Dalton steps in to restore peace. Dalton tries to reason with Dell outside, but Dell refuses. So, Dalton decides to give their bikes a little makeover. Concerned, Dell and his crew rush out to confront him. Despite Dalton's attempts to defuse the situation peacefully, Dell insists on a fight. Reluctantly, Dalton unleashes his skills, swiftly incapacitating them. After the brawl, Dalton puts aside the rivalry, lending Frankie's car to take Dell and his friends to the hospital. Leaving the hospital, Dalton catches the attention of Dr. Ellie, who scolds him for his involvement with the injured troublemakers. Unfazed, Dalton brushes off her threats, joking about the lax law enforcement in the area. Impressed by his resilience, Ellie patches up his wound and offers him advice along with antibiotics. Back at the Roadhouse, Frankie compensates Dalton for his first week's work. Their conversation turns serious as Dalton admires the beauty of the place. Frankie reveals the quirky history of the bar's name, sparking a bond between them. Recognizing Dalton's need for lodging, Frankie offers him a stay on her boat, which he gratefully accepts. That night, Dalton's dreams drift back to his days as a UFC fighter, but he's abruptly awakened by Laura in the morning, signaling the start of another eventful day. Laura brings Dalton breakfast, expressing her hope that he'll be a better bouncer than the others. Dalton then heads to Charlie's shop, where he's granted permission to use their computer. Meanwhile, trouble brews outside, and Charlie grabs a bat to confront the men. When they threaten her, Dalton steps in, prompting the troublemakers to flee. Dalton learns about Charlie's family history, including her deceased mother's role in the bookstore. Back at the Roadhouse, Dalton shares his strange dreams with Frankie, who hints at the island's gossip-filled nature. Meanwhile, bikers Mo and his friend report to their boss, Ben Brandt, about the chaos at the Roadhouse. Ben is displeased and wants the place gone. Despite suggestions to involve his father, Ben remains firm. As chaos continues at the Roadhouse, Dalton advises Billy on handling unruly patrons, leading to an improvement in Billy's skills. as a man tries to retaliate using his knife. Dalton steps in and saves the day. Dalton also recruits Reef, a boxer, to assist Billy at night, adding to their team. Laura is pleased to see Dalton thriving in his new role. Billy and Reef handle business, while Laura deals with a troublemaker named Jim. Dalton intervenes, helping Jim out. Later, spotting Del and his crew, Dalton senses trouble looming. That night, Dalton's dreams haunt him again, replaying his past defeats. The next morning, over breakfast at a restaurant, he crosses paths with Ellie, who's venting about her hairdresser. Dalton's curiosity about the locals' perpetual anger earns him a warning from Ellie, but he brushes it off, charming her instead. Their banter turns into a budding friendship, with Dalton admiring Ellie's new hairstyle before she leaves. In the evening, Frankie shares a personal moment with Dalton, showing him a photo of her late uncle and acknowledging his contributions. Dalton's next week's pay secured, he heads back to his boat, only to face a violent attack from Del, but narrowly escapes. Still, Del manages to throw him into the river along with his truck. A dangerous scuffle ensues as Dalton returns to the boat, leading to Del's demise at the jaws of a crocodile. The following day, Dalton learns about Del's possible involvement in drugs from a local, prompting him to investigate. However, he finds no evidence of Roadhouse being a suitable site for business at Charlie's shop. On his way out, he encounters a thug sent by Brandt, but Dalton swiftly deals with him. Unfazed, he leaves a message for Brandt, inviting him to the Roadhouse. After encountering Frankie at her office, Dalton presses her about Del and his crew's interest in the Roadhouse. Frankie advises him not to dwell on it, leaving Dalton with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, the man with the broken finger reports back to Brandt, who grows furious at Dalton's interference. In a fit of rage, Brandt disregards a call from his incarcerated father, tossing his phone into the ocean. In another part of town, Knox finds himself in a sticky situation when he's caught by his girlfriend's husband. But before things get too embarrassing, Gerald Brandt, Ben's father, intervenes and offers Knox a job helping his son. Knox gladly accepts, causing chaos on the streets before joining Gerald's crew. Meanwhile, Dalton gets an unexpected invitation from Ellie, who takes him on a boat trip to a secluded island. As they bond over beer, Ellie tries to dig into Dalton's past, but he insists he's not a good man. Their date takes a surprising turn when Ellie reveals she knows about Dalton's past, and they share a kiss. Elsewhere, Knox arrives at Gerald's house to find Del's friends there. Things get tense when Ben Brandt shows up and questions Knox's presence. In a bold move, Knox punches Ben, delivering a message from his father. Ben pleads with Knox not to harm Dalton in public, promising to handle things himself for one last time. Meanwhile, as Ellie drops off Dalton, she notices two police officers leading him away for investigation. Later, Dalton finds himself in a precarious situation when Sheriff on Ben's payroll tries to intimidate him, but in vain, as Dalton does not take his threats seriously. Just as things escalate, Ellie arrives and saves Dalton, revealing a shocking secret about her relationship with Sheriff. She tells Dalton that he used to work for Gerald Brandt for a long time and now works for his son. She urges Dalton to leave town and find a safe place. Meanwhile, outside Charlie's bookstore, Vince and Sam are getting ready to set it on fire. Stephen advises Charlie to leave, but she refuses. Later that night at the Roadhouse, Dalton looks sad and Laura asks him why. Before he can answer, Ben interrupts and shows Dalton a video of his last UFC match where he fatally injured his friend. Ben asks why Dalton didn't stop, but Dalton doesn't respond. Ben then leaves, ordering Knox to cause chaos in the bar. Knox and his gang enter and start trouble. Billy and Reef try to stop Knox but get beaten up. Dalton remains calm until Knox calls him out. Dalton joins the fight and faces Knox, realizing Knox was sent specifically to fight him. They have a tough battle, but even after being badly beaten, Dalton remains composed. Knox mentions they both have issues and stops fighting when the police arrive. Dalton leaves as Ellie tries to stop him. He goes to his boat to leave town. Just before he departs, Frankie arrives and confesses that Ben wants to build a resort for his rich friends, and she's the only one opposing him. Dalton doesn't want to hear it and leaves, telling Frankie he's more afraid than she knows. At the same time, Ben hears that things didn't go as planned because Knox failed to kill Dalton. Plus, the wrong cops showed up, so the sheriff can't help them. Ben rushes to the bus stand but sees Charlie's bookstore is burned down. He finds out Charlie and her father are in the hospital. This changes Dalton's mind, and he heads to Knox's place. Luckily, he finds Vince alone there. After confirming Vince burned the bookstore, Dalton breaks his neck when Vince tries to stab him. Dalton sees Vince suffer in the pool, admitting he's scared of himself when pushed too far. While loading Vince's body in his truck, Mo spots him. Mo tells Dalton that Ben's money will arrive at 5 a.m. and shares the location. Dalton lets Mo go safely. Later that night, Dalton dreams of his last fight and regrets killing his friend. In the morning, he attacks the deputy at the meeting spot while he's loading Ben's money. Dalton sends the money away on a boat and uses the deputy's gun to shoot Vince, framing the deputy for the murder. When the deputy wakes up, he threatens to tell the police everything. Dalton knocks him out, knowing how much force to use to erase short-term memory. As Dalton is stacking explosives, the sheriff shows up asking for his help. He tells Dalton that Ben kidnapped Ellie and wants his money in return. At first, Dalton plays dumb, but the sheriff says the deputy spilled the beans. The sheriff pleads for Dalton's help if Ellie means anything to him. Reluctantly, Dalton agrees and asks where the meeting is. After the sheriff leaves, Dalton takes Dex's boat without permission, promising to be careful. Meanwhile, Knox returns to his safe house to find it empty. In the next scene, Dalton arrives at Ben's boat and meets Sam, who jokes that Ben will be mad since Dalton didn't bring the money. Dalton meets Ben and the sheriff and senses a betrayal. The sheriff admits he lied to him while Ellie is safe. Ben admits to taking her, angering the sheriff. Ben tries to reason with Dalton, saying he's trying to build something while Dalton keeps interfering. When Dalton refuses to give up the money, Ben orders Sam to beat him, or he'll bring Ellie, and things will get worse. Suddenly, Knox arrives on his boat, distracting everyone. Dalton seizes the opportunity and sets off the bombs on his boat. The explosion is bigger than expected, but Dalton stays focused, rushing to find Ellie before the ship sinks. Ellie struggles to break the glass as Dalton approaches. Someone tries to shoot them, but luckily, the glass breaks and they escape. Outside, Dalton tells Ellie to get on a boat, promising to join her soon. Meanwhile, Dalton fights off a man while Knox tries to hit him with his boat. Dalton knocks the man against Knox's boat, allowing Ellie to board and find Ben. Ben tries to hit Ellie, but she fights back, forcing him to flee with her. Back with Dalton, he struggles against Knox but eventually gets on his boat. They fight, and Dalton throws Knox into the water. However, Knox grabs a rope and follows Dalton's boat. Ben spots Dalton and steers toward him. Just before the boats collide, Dalton jumps onto Ben's boat. He beats Ben, but Ellie warns him that the boat is about to crash into the Roadhouse. She jumps off, and the boat hits the building, sending Ben flying onto the roof. Meanwhile, Knox swims to safety, hijacks a car, and heads back. Dalton asks Ellie to wait as he confronts Ben. Ben tries to attack with a fishing spear, but Dalton breaks his back and nose in a rage. As Dalton beats Ben, Knox crashes his car into the building. Dalton and Knox fight hand-to-hand, both skilled. Knox manages to stab Dalton in the kidney, weakening him. Just as Knox is about to finish Dalton, Ben orders him to kill Dalton, but Knox betrays Ben and kills him instead. Turning toward Dalton, Knox stops his hand and stabs him with the wooden pieces, killing him instantly. Ellie arrives and Walton apologizes to her. The sheriff appears, urging Dalton to leave while he will handle the aftermath. Frankie and her crew return to the Roadhouse, hoping to fix everything. Suddenly, a customer arrives, boosting their hopes. Days later, Dalton prepares to leave. Charlie asks him to stay, but Dalton insists he's not a hero in this tale. Stephen finds a mysterious box in his shop containing Ben's money and Dalton's book. Before he can react, Dalton's bus departs, leaving him sad. Billy watches the bus leave, but Reef cheers him up, urging him to stay strong. Meanwhile, Dalton bids farewell to the city, and the movie ends.